Ho, 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 it's midnight. All the presents are wrapped and under the tree, and while the kids are snug in their beds dreaming of sugar plums, I'm finishing off these cookies they left for me, or Santa. Tonight, I'm working on a pattern that's only 2 pages long. Shouldn't be too difficult, right? And because it's Christmas, I'm giving away the top 10 items on my Christmas wish list, but I'll tell you more about that later. Let's get started. This pattern is called Santorini, and it's designed by Nancy Smith, and it uses my favorite color, blue. Not just one, not just two, but 55. Well, maybe not 55 colors of blue, but quite a few. It has, I'm not even sure which color is which, but maize and midnight, periwinkle. I know these colors aren't matching up, I'm just trying to think. But what color I'm looking for is the, yay, my kids are on holiday break blue. Where's that one at? But it uses all these fun, beautiful shades of blue in solids, which are really gonna make the quilting shine, including a nice dark royal blue. You know, being from Kansas City, royal blue is very near and dear to my heart, and a fun white. All I gotta do is start cutting it up. So we're gonna need some big squares and some little squares, and I'm gonna cut it like it owes me money. One thing you might not know about me is I love Christmas music. That's right, I'm that person playing holiday music right after Thanksgiving. Okay, a little bit before, but you only get to listen to it 1 month out of the year. I'm gonna take these squares, I'm gonna cut them diagonally to start making my blocks. Okay, let's recap where it's at. I have 122 squares here, 122 big squares, 2 7/8 inch, 4 7/8 inch. I'm gonna cut them all diagonally. That's gonna give me 244 of each size. I'm gonna carry the Y seam, divide it by pi, and the result is going to be a lot of freaking triangles. Just kidding, there's no Y seams in this quilt. So now what I have is a stack of triangles larger than the stack of Christmas cards that I meant to send but didn't. And what I'm gonna do is sew all these little pieces together and make little half square triangles. So a lot of squares here. I'm gonna set the bigger ones aside for now, and I'm actually gonna take some of these littler ones away too. Oh, actually, I have my handy dandy quilt block organizer bags. Put those in there so I don't lose those. What's great about this quilt pattern is that it's scrappy. That means I don't have to try to find Wedgwood blue and put it next to Prism blue and then, you know, take out the yay, it's Christmas break for the kids blue. But what I am gonna do is take these colors and make my half square triangles. Now we've seen this before, but we're gonna do it again. Now I know there's lots of great ways to make half square triangles, but I'm gonna follow the designer because it's late in the evening, I'm kind of on a sugar high. I'm just gonna do exactly what she says to do. So pairing a white triangle to one of the blues, random color, doesn't matter, whatever I feel in the mood for, and I'm just gonna fold those over and sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam. Now normally, well, I shouldn't say normally a 1/4 inch seam doesn't matter. This one is very precise though. I wanna try to make sure it's as close as possible because I have a lot of seams coming together. It's just gonna make everything a little bit easier. And since there's so much more fun in pairs, I'm gonna whip through about 6 of these to show you what it looks like. All right, let's find a fun blue. This one, this kind of looks like Blue Christmas. I'm just gonna make up some fun blue names. All right, so I have a whole heck of a lot more of these to do, but I'm gonna go ahead and trim these apart and press them out and make the blocks so we can make sure that everything's gonna come out just like I want it to be. I could even pretend these are like the days of Christmas, you know, like the first day of Christmas, my true love gave me a partridge in a pear tree, a new sewing machine, 3 maids of milking, 4 something, 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 5 golden rings. I mean, we all know what number 5 is, right? And 6 new spools of thread. I feel like there should be a Quilty's Days of Christmas, right? And it could end with a finished quilt. Now I'm gonna press. Since these blocks have a lighter fabric, which I also like to call polar bear blue, get it? Because polar bears aren't blue, they're white. Right, I knew you would get it. It's funny, right? I'm actually gonna press them towards the darker print. Basically, I just don't want any of those little threads showing up under the white after I quilt it. And as with triangles, I don't want to stretch it, I don't want to push too hard. I just want to get that seam to lay nice and flat because that's what's going to help these go together nicely when I assemble the whole block. If I had more time, what I could do is just sew all these and then press them while I'm watching National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Love that movie. She's a beaut, Clark. Never gets old. All right, we know the drill. With half square triangles, that means we have to trim them. I know, it doesn't seem like a fun part, but it's just gonna make everything come together so nicely. So these need to finish at 2.5 inches. So I'm also going to check and make sure that the right size when I'm trimming those little dog ears off. All right, one beautiful square, a whole lot more to go. I don't know what it is about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation that makes it so funny, because all the other ones weren't as funny. There's just something about having all your family members under the same roof that results in some funny stuff. I mean, I don't know from experience or anything. Oh, we're not going anywhere. You're not leaving. We're gonna have the best Christmas. Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna take these half square triangles, combine them with some white triangles and a few different colors of these, and we're gonna start to see our block come together. For the middle row of our block, what I'm gonna do is lay my half square triangle out, and it's going to get a white triangle on one side and then a differently colored triangle on the other. Okay, so now I have my North Pole blue sewn to my partridge in a pear tree yellow, and I'm gonna put my polar bear blue on the other side. Again, lining up those similar angles and sewing a 1/4 inch seam along the side. All right, and there is the middle section to my block. Now I am gonna press this, but I do wanna just kind of roll it with the seam roller nice and flat so you can see what that's looking like. Actually, the white's gonna go on the left. All right, and then I need to add my top piece. And my top row is going to get another one of those polar bear blues and a half square triangle. Now, when I was looking through this pattern, I'm thinking, how am I gonna keep track of the color placement and where this is going? If you remember that this triangle is always gonna be in the upper left position, that's gonna make your life a lot easier. And then I'm going to fold them together and sew that 1/4 inch seam along that side. All right, here we go. We have long arm blue and then the white, and you can see where I'm starting to get my section come together. But I need the bottom row, so I need to grab yet another half square triangle. Remember, it's always gonna go in that upper left-hand corner, and then the next one is gonna get a different color, Chief's blue. Why is it blue? Well, then they lose the game, I'm sad. All right, so these 3 pieces are gonna come together and make the middle section of the block. And what I'm gonna do is place them together and sew a 1/4 inch seam along that. But what's gonna happen is now I have an area where 2 points are coming together. That can be a little tricky. I would say the first step, the very first thing you should do when dealing with a block as tricky as this, is take a little sip of your piecing potion. Perfect. And then I'm gonna kind of position them to where those points are touching, or close enough to touching, either way. And then I'm gonna put a pin in it to hold it in place. There are a lot of points to this quilt, a lot of areas where all these little pieces come together. If they're not all perfect, it's fine. If I can make it look good, I'm gonna try. You know, kind of like trying to make a Thanksgiving turkey. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay. Oh, there's so much smoke, so much smoke. That's pretty good. I'll kind of flatten that out so you can see it. And the next one's gonna line up just below it. Everything is the same. I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna make sure those points kind of get close to each other and use a pin to hold it there. If I'm being honest, when I'm sewing these together, even if this point right here is more or less than a 1/4 inch away from the edge, I'm just gonna kind of veer over and hit it, because that's gonna make the points match even if the seam isn't perfect. It's kind of like, if I have to make an error, which one do I wanna make? And look how fun that block is turning out. So I've been using my seam roller. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a quick press, and then I'm gonna put the sides on it, and we'll get to see the square actually come together. All right, so here's my middle. This is where the fun happens. I'm gonna pick my very favorite big triangle. There you are, new car blue. That's gonna go on that side. Again, that color triangle is gonna be in the upper left-hand corner. The white triangle is gonna go on the other side, and this is what's gonna make the block. But as you can tell, it's just a little tricky. We have all these angles coming out. So what I'm gonna do is fold it over. This is the only folding I do, by the way. I do not like folding laundry. And I'm just gonna kind of press it, and that's gonna give me my middle point. That's gonna let me see the middle of this triangle, so that when I flip it over, I can line up the middle of that side of the triangle with the middle of this side of the block. I have to be very careful because there is a lot of bias to this block and it's very stretchy, so I don't want to stretch it out. Placing it right where it needs to go is going to help prevent that. Then I'm going to fold it over. It seems so complicated, I promise it's not. I'm going to fold it over because I want to sew from the side that has the seams. Sew from the side that has the seams. Because I want to try to make that point match. And so I'm going to use my pin, and then I'm going to carefully sew 1/4 inch along that seam. Looking good. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. You got to be careful with these pins. You could put your eye out with it. Okay, look at that. It's a Christmas miracle. That's so good. I feel like I deserve a reward. Popcorn or cookies? I don't know. It's always a hard choice. A quick press, a quick trim of those dog ears again, and there is one beautiful blue and polar bear white block. And I'm gonna make another one just like it with different colors. There we go, there's the second block. At this rate, I'm gonna be up later than Santa Claus. Now, what I wanna point out is I put together some fun things for my Christmas list, and one lucky winner is gonna get to take them home. But you've already seen two of the things that are on the list. One is my seam roller. I'm a huge fan. I never understood how great these were until not too long ago. And then also, this cut and press mat I've been using. That's right, 1/2 ironing board, 1/2 cutting board, 100% awesome. All you have to do to win is to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below telling me what's on your Christmas wish list. All right, taking my 2 blocks, I'm gonna line them up like this. I'm gonna rotate my blocks and sew them so that these big triangles are together, and this is gonna give me the first block of many. Well, looky there, it's another Christmas miracle. Most of the points are matching, enough to call it good. Now I'm gonna press that, and I'm gonna make several more of these for the first row of our quilt. So I have all the blocks done for my very first row, and what I want to show you really quick is that not all of them are sewn together in groups of 2. I'm going to keep some of them apart. They're kind of loners that way. These are actually going to be the ends of my row. So let's see how it looks. This is where we get the first glimpse of all the beautiful blues that are in this quilt, and even the polar bear blue / white. But what I want to point out real quick is that this is actually the length of the quilt. I'm laying it out lengthwise this way, so it goes together just slightly different than your traditional quilt. But what I can't wait to do is get this row sewn together so we can see where the negative space really comes into play. I have the first 2 rows finished, and this is really where we get to see the negative space of the quilt come out. Because in between these 2 rows, I've laid a white strip of fabric. I wish I could take credit for that genius, but that belongs to Nancy Smith, the pattern designer. This is so cool because the negative space starts to play as big a role in the quilt as the piecing. And we know what I like to do in the negative space, the quilting. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get this sewn up, and I'm gonna start contemplating what else to put on my Christmas wish list that we're giving away. I'll tell you one thing that isn't on it, white wine. What can I say? I'm more of a red wine kind of gal. Well, time to get sewing right now. Maybe in just a second. Look how great this quilt is turning out. All I have to do is sew 4 more seams, add this big beautiful border around the outside, and guess what? More blue. All right, I'm ready to get this thing finished. What's that sound? Sounds like little tiny hoof prints on the roof. Oh wait, that's just my kids. Go back to bed! All right, let's get this done. Getting to quilt a quilt made of solids and all this negative space is almost like a Christmas present to myself. What I'm gonna do is use dot-to-dot quilting to make that space a little bit smaller and fill it with one of my go-to fillers, the wishbone. Let's see how it turns out. Now I'm just gonna fill that in with a wishbone design that's really gonna go from smaller to wider and then smaller and bring it all together. When I'm quilting the wishbone, what I'm doing is quilting down at an angle. And as I approach the opposite side, I'm gonna loop back and around and then come back down the other side. So I'm really just using the edges of the block as my guide and filling it in. All right, let's see how this is turning out. And there I have my dot-to-dot quilting, those wishbones filling it in nicely. And one thing I want to point out is that I made these pretty big and pretty spread apart. What can I say? It's getting late and I want to get this thing finished. If you want to put a little bit more effort into your quilt, you can just make them closer to each other. It'll give you more dense quilting and make those dot-to-dot designs pop out even more. Well, I was just struck with a really fun idea. In this next strip, what if I did overlapping ribbon candy? That is the classic holiday treat, right? So to quilt the ribbon candy, what I'm going to do is starting from this point, it's going to be kind of similar to the wishbone, except a little different. It's going to curve out and then back. And so I'm almost making this backwards S-shaped, but since this area is so large, I'm going to quilt them so that they overlap. That's going to help keep the quilting nice and consistent in this wider space. All right, normally I would keep going over this whole strip, but I want to see how this is turning out. Now that's a ribbon candy that looks good enough to eat. I love how it's adding a little bit of curviness to this geometric style quilt. Now, if that seems a little too overwhelming to you, don't worry about it because I've actually put together some free quilting diagrams. This design especially is tricky to quilt unless you know how it goes. And if you print out those diagrams, you can trace right over the design till it becomes easier to do. I've included 2 different options. There's an up all night option if you're waiting to open presents in the morning, or there's a turn in early option if you just need to get the quilt FFF, right? Finally frickin' finished. Well, that's where I'm at right about now, so I'm gonna finish this quilt up. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a Santorini quilt. Well, maybe not really, I gave it to myself, but hey, I do love myself, so it works out great. Who knew there were so many colors of blue in this world? I had so much fun piecing together all those triangles. Even if the trimming did take forever, I had so much fun quilting it with different quilting designs to really enhance that negative space. What do I want for Christmas? I'm so glad you asked. What I really would like is for you to take a brief survey. I want to make these episodes as great as I can, and I want to make them about things that you want to watch. So if you can take the time to answer just a few questions, it'll really help me pick out quilts that I use for future episodes. And don't forget, you can be the lucky winner that gets the 10 items on my Christmas wish list. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below telling me what you'd like on your Christmas wish list. Well, all that's left to do is to sit back and enjoy the rest of Santa's cookies. He does exist.